Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Kayla Lords.
John Brownstone.
Of Loving BDSM, where we help Kinksters have happy, healthy power exchange relationships.
That's our intention, I hope.
That's the claim, anyway.
Yeah.
We'll let other people decide. We don't do this often enough. I think we make the assumption that everybody knows us from just the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true. So we should probably also point out, for anybody who might care, I'm the submissive.
And I'm the big D.
Yep, there we go. Now you know. We get asked that a lot. Which are you? And I always feel like, isn't it obvious from my attitude? But not always.
You're a little sassy.
I'm a baby girl. I even wear shirts that label me as baby girl, but sometimes it's not clear. So there you go. We are continuing a series we do of first time story times, except what we're talking about today. Please God, don't let it be there be a second time for it. I don't want to do this again.
No.
So we're going to talk about the only frickin' time that we transitioned from long distance to in person. And in this video, we're going to talk about the planning process. Sometimes there's not a plan. Sometimes life comes at you fast and you make quick decisions and you just go with it. And that's fine. I know some people who've done really well with that. We are not those people. We are planners. Yeah. So for anybody else out there who's in a long distance relationship and you're like, well, how do I take this in person? This is just our story and how we have done it. And in this video, we're going to talk about planning the transition. In a video later, we'll talk about what it was like to make that transition. Yeah. That was a whole different story. Just so you know, we have been together since 2013. We were in a long distance relationship for 18 months. Yeah. Same state, 440 miles apart, 2 time zones. Not as significant as people who are on different continents and have entire oceans between them, but we learned a few things along the way.
True, we did.
And it was the basis of our relationship. So that's what we're talking about today. So if you've watched any of our other videos from this series, you know that I tend to not remember much of anything. And when I think about the planning part of the transition, I do think about the conversation we had to say that we were going to plan this transition. And I remember not being happy because the conversation was, we're not going to see each other for a while in order to do this.
Yeah, you went full on baby girl. No, you did not like that at all. But with what we were doing with our traveling, you know, because every, I think, 6 weeks?
Maybe 8 weeks if we had to stretch it, but usually 6 weeks, yeah.
You know, one of us was traveling to the other. I know for me it was either hopping in a car and driving up there or getting on a plane. So, you know, and then for you, it was packing up the kids and...
Right, I made 2 trips down to you. The first one was by myself. That was a week in a hotel. That was glorious. Yeah. The second time was a weekend trip with the kids, and that's when I knew it was serious. This was gonna go somewhere because, one, who willingly packs up their kids, small kids, like 8 and 4, I think?
Yeah.
For a, 8-hour drive for somebody not that serious for just a 3-day weekend? Yeah, we were, this was something. Yeah. So, yeah, we had done that for about a little over a year, probably 14 months.
Pretty much, yeah. And, what it came down to, we, you know, in the talks about being together and you know, the first thing was, we kind of need to save a little bit of money because the move's going to be expensive.
Well, and before we even got to that point, I can't remember who said it first, but we both ended up saying, we don't want this to be long distance forever.
No.
What are we going to do about this?
Right.
So that was what we decided to do, was to move.
And then there was the talk of, well, do I move up there or you come to where I'm at?
And you tried to move up to me.
I did.
I thought that would be better.
Actually even tried because, we figured, you know, rather than one of the thoughts was rather than uproot the kids, you know, me being just me, it might be better for, you know, just me. And a few of the times when I visited, I actually did apply for some jobs and had some interviews.
Yeah, I remember sitting in the car outside a couple of your interviews because we were exploring different parts of the area I lived at the time. Yeah. And I remember being really hopeful, but I think my only reason, other than not wanting to uproot the kids, who thankfully were young, was that I was only a few hours away from my mom. But I wasn't happy in my job. You weren't happy in your job either.
No, not really.
Neither of us works in the type of jobs we had when we met one another. Not anymore, anyway. And so it was more about, how do we make this happen to be together?
Right.
And so, yeah, you went on interviews. Clearly nothing panned out there.
No.
And that was when we switched gears and said, okay, what if I moved to you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when real planning kicked in, because when it was just a matter of a single guy, newly divorced, decides to move, I wasn't going to have to change much of anything except to like make room in the bathroom and in the closet. That was about it. I think the changes that we ended up making would have come later. I think had you come to me, we would have moved eventually. We would have gotten a different place to live, but we weren't thinking about that at the time.
Mm-mm.
So once it was flipped, it became a bigger challenge, because where you lived, we couldn't all live together. So you needed a new place.
Yes.
I was moving with kids, and I was having to have the conversation of, what am I going to do about my job? Mm-hmm. Now, this is where it gets interesting to me, because I'd been at my job for 7 years at that point. I'd actually worked my way up the ladder, so to speak, was making pretty good money. And so I'm not just looking at living in a different part of our state, like going to take a drastic pay cut to do it.
Yeah.
Huge. Because I think I tried applying for some jobs. I think I looked at some jobs that might be available in the area.
I don't remember. I don't think you did apply for any.
No,
you did look.
I think I looked and went, I don't want to keep doing this work.
Yeah.
And we had been having the conversations about what I really did want to do, which was to be a freelance writer and to work for myself and to be my own boss. And that's a whole other conversation for another day, because I don't know who that person was. I didn't think I was that type of person. Here I am all these years later, I work for myself. But it was a huge shift.
Yes. And
so we had to decide not just how we were going to do it, but what we were going to do. Correct. So it was a place to live that could fit 4 of us, that we could afford.
Yeah.
It was you being willing to at least temporarily be the main income earner. Be because I wouldn't have an income for a while. Mm-hmm. It was 2 little kids who were gonna be further away from their grandma and family friends and people that they knew, and that was a big deal. It was the money to make the move happen. We went apartment hunting long distance as well. Like, we did everything long distance. It was huge.
I started looking around at different apartments. Did consider houses. Houses were very expensive to rent at that time.
And where we were going to live,
where we were going to live specifically, it was very much so. Apartments varied greatly.
Yes, not that much different from now. If it's labeled a luxury apartment,
yes,
you better be a rich person to live there.
Yeah, and everything from the bottom end of the spectrum to the top and in between. And I looked and looked. I would go to look at apartments, and I would actually take pictures and video and text them to you.
Or you would talk to me while you were viewing the apartment. So the leasing manager might be in there and you would be talking to me on the phone.
Right.
And that was actually a really good exercise in the relationship that we kind of have now, which was, I had to go on faith and trust that if he wasn't happy with it, I wasn't going to be happy with it. Correct. If I had spent every moment second guessing his decisions, we never would have gotten into an apartment.
No, it never would have happened.
Ever. And, you could say, oh, well, that's easy for you. You're the submissive. Think about it if you go in reverse and it's the submissive doing the search for where you're going to live or what the circumstance might be in your transition to in-person. If you're the dominant and you can't trust your partner to give you the information you need, then it's all going to stall out. So I did have it easier because I was the submissive, but I'm also a controlling human being who likes to know everything before making a decision. And
it was a lot of communication.
It was. It actually, we built on the communication skills we had been practicing up to that point and used what we were good at. So We were very open with one another. I would research online and then send you tons of links.
Right.
Then you would do a drive-by of the place and you have me on the phone and go, oh, no, we're not living here. I don't care what the price is per month.
Yeah, one place I drove by, it was like an eternal frat party going on in the...
Yeah, there were a few places it was like that. And we also, what that did, I think, for us later, because we were so together in that decision, even though we had to do it from a distance apart, was that when the apartment we got, the townhouse we got, turned out to be not great, neither of us was blaming the other. There was no blame heaped on him for having been the one who ultimately decided, because in our own way, from different sides of the state, we were each contributing to the decision. So I found it, sent you a link. We both read the reviews. We were on the phone with each other. We read the reviews together.
Very mixed reviews.
Very mixed reviews. And we went, oh, well, no place is perfect. These reviews are only from a few months ago. Maybe they fixed these issues. And so it was in our budget. It was a part of town we were happy to live in. We get in there and we go, oh. But if you had decided you were just the decider and you hadn't brought me into any of those decisions, then it would have been very easy when things started to go south in that townhome. True. Oh, and it was bad. Yeah. To blame you, to go, if you just let me help, maybe we could have found, and it's easy to do that regardless. But I'm glad we, to the best of our ability, because we were long distance, did those things together. Right. Because then it meant that those decisions were ours. True. And they were when there was disappointment, it was easier to handle.
And there were some considerations that kind of bumped that place up to the top of the list. One, it was fairly close to where I was working at the time.
Yes, and to the Target. I'm not going to lie. There was a super Target a quarter of a mile up the road, and I went, yes, I can live here now.
The layout of the apartment was very similar to where you were, which to me, I felt it would be good for the boys because it kind of felt like, home already in that aspect.
Yeah. Now, thankfully, somebody's going, oh, that's right. You had kids. How did you plan for that? I was honest with them from the beginning. I tried to make it to be this big adventure. The oldest one was a little bit more adventurous than his little brother. If we were doing this now at his little brother's age, which we kind of did a year or so ago, and he still hasn't fully adjusted when we moved. So I felt okay about the little one because he was so young. Yeah. He was going into VPK. It was actually, he was almost 4 when we moved because he went into VPK after we moved. Right. Gosh, they were such babies. For my oldest, I remember treating it like a grand adventure. We were going to do this new thing. There were going to be new friends. Oh, do you remember that place we went to and it had all this fun stuff to go do? We're going to go live there. And he's a pretty chill kid even now. He just sort of let it roll off his back. He was nervous, of course. First day of school, we were all nervous. Yeah. They had met you often enough. They were very comfortable with you. That I don't think I could have done it if John Brownstone was essentially a stranger to them. That was a key component of planning that transition. They had to know this person that they were about to live with and who was about to basically be a parent to them on a lot of levels. So that was a big part too. Yeah. But we had done that work prior to the actual planning this move by you coming to visit. The first few visits, the kids were nowhere around. I kept it very separate. Then once I was willing to make the drive with my children in the car,
once you knew I was kind of sort of okay.
Right. Then I was like, oh, this is real. It's time to try and mush everybody together. I distinctly remember the last visit before the move. We were sitting at a frozen yogurt place. Yes. And we were planning. And this is when I learned about you the thing I already knew to be true about myself. And I realized we were similar in this way. And that is, we are planners. Yep. We love to sit and make a plan and strategize and make lists. And that's like one of our kinks, apparently. Because we spent an hour at this frozen yogurt place going, okay, so And I'm going to say it was February when we were at Frozen Yogurt Place because I live in Florida, y'all. So you can do that.
Yes.
So it's February and we're like, okay, when do we want to move in? And I said, well, the perfect time would be after school lets out. So it's a summertime move. Okay. So if we make that early June, what has to happen between now, which was mid-February, to early June? And we reverse engineered it. We said, okay, we want to move on this date in June. And I think we tried to say June 1st, and it ended up being about that. It's about when I left.
I think it was about 4 or 5 days off.
Yeah, because I was, ending my lease with where I was currently renting. Right. So I wanted to end the lease at renewal time, so I didn't pay any penalties or anything like that. I wanted to give my job enough time and notice. I didn't do a 2-week notice. I had been there long enough and was wearing way too many hats. They had overworked me. I gave a 2-month notice. Yeah. And spent the last month training other people to do the job that I was going to be walking away from. It was extra. It was too serious. I look back on that now and go, why? And then there was the talking to the kids, and then there was the time to find an apartment. Right. And you ended up finding an apartment. I think it's weird with apartment hunting and a house hunting when you have to do it from long distances away. It's easy to get panicked. And we were convinced we weren't going to find something in time for June.
It was starting to look that way.
But you moved in April.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Yeah. What? Apartments at that time were in very high demand. Yes. Because a lot of them at that point were being converted to condominiums.
Okay.
Right? So apartments were starting to get a little...
Yeah, and they hadn't built new complexes yet.
And they hadn't really built new places, so it was getting a little scarce at that point. So when I did find that one, and like I say, we agreed it was affordable. It was close to work for me. The schools seemed decent. I was not going to wait. Right. So even though it was ahead of time, snatched it up and was like, okay, we're,
And that worked out well because you were able to spend the time getting utilities turned on, right? Getting what you needed over, getting yourself moved over. So once we moved over, it was us integrating into essentially a house already. Yeah. The difference was you came with almost no furniture, and we used most of my furniture. So
I didn't have very much. Yeah. We talked about your stuff, what you had. We were going to keep most of it. Very little that we didn't of yours that we didn't take down, and then once we got there, then we looked at what we needed. Right. I know it was essentially what you do to combine two households, even when you're not long distance. You've been single and living on your own, and now you're going to move in with your partner. It's not that much different. It's just that I was coming from 440 miles away, and I had to rent a U-Haul, and I quit my job, and there was that length of time. Now, through it all, we maintained our dynamic, and we'll talk in a later video about what happened when I got there. But we still maintained the sort of structure of how we communicated. Oh, absolutely. We communicated more, quite frankly, during that time because there was so much planning going on. But my morning wake-up calls that we had done throughout our long-distance relationship still happen. The lunchtime text messaging and phone calls still happen. The rules that we had set for still all of that was still in place. We just added this layer of, okay, but also now we're going to work as a team here to accomplish a goal. And I would say that is, to me, the best way to look at it when you're trying to make that transition. You were on the same team with the same goal. We've talked about both teamwork and goal setting in live stream / podcast episodes. I'll link to those in the description box below. And if you go into it with that mindset that what you want is the same outcome, and you're just trying to find the best possible way to get there, then I think it does become a little bit easier. Yeah. I also think that the planning part before you even get moved in can show cracks in your relationship if they exist, because it does require extra communication. It definitely requires a certain amount of patience. I don't like that word any more than most other people who are hearing my voice like it. I don't, but it's true.
And yes,
and there's the added stress,
right? And that is something
because let's face it, moving can be very stressful just in and of itself,
right? But you're actually taking a relationship that's worked very well if you're at this point. Long distance, and you're like, actually, let's mush it together and be together, and that in itself is stressful. Yeah. And it's possible that one of you is uprooting your entire life to get to the other person. It's possible you're both uprooting your life and meeting in the middle. I think that the best thing we did was we stayed very open and honest with each other about how we were feeling. If one of us got stressed, we said, I am feeling very stressed, and here's why. And I don't remember, we didn't argue. I think the couple times the stress got to us over where we were going to live, we got a little snappy with one another. Yeah. But typically one could bring the other one down and go, whoa, 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 hi. Again, I'm on the same team as you. Can we handle this a little differently?
Mutual goal.
Right. Exactly. And so everybody's specific situation for that transition and that plan will be different. For us, it was my job, kids, not in this order, my job, my kids, where we were going to live, and then how we were going to get moved.
Right. That was the next thing, because then once had a place, then we need to figure out how to get you from point A to point B.
You drove a U-Haul.
We talked about hiring mover, and way expensive for 440 miles.
Yes, and considering I had just left my job and there wasn't going to be a paycheck for me for a few weeks.
Right. So we looked into what size U-Haul we would need and how we were going to manage the vehicles.
I rallied my personal troops.
Yeah.
My mom, my friends, people came from other states who were very happy for me, but also very sad that I was moving further away.
Yeah.
I am friends with a bunch of type A people, so that the packing up of the townhouse went very well.
It was amazing. It was decided I would fly up, and when got there, we're going to get the U-Haul and going to put a car carrier on the back for your car. And I was impressed. I mean, usually moving day, it's very insane, and there's always so much to do. I got there, and everything was pretty much packed and ready to go.
I have to say, that's one of my weird special skills. I can get you packed, and it'll be organized.
and even loading the truck, there were so many people there.
Oh yeah, because
my gosh, that was the quickest.
My mom
loading of
the friends truck. And then the friends that came with. We're all like, just get it done. Oh, we have a goal. We know what we're supposed to do. Why are we taking our sweet ass time? Let's just get this shit done.
Right.
The other part of the planning of the transition was telling my family. It helped that they had already met you.
Yes.
My friends that lived in the area had met you multiple times, had already decided they liked you. My mom and then my friends from Mississippi, where my mom lives, and I used to live for a while, they had met you over Christmas. They had met you at different Thanksgiving, a few family holidays.
Right.
And they had decided, she picked a better one the second time around. Okay, good. Okay, we can trust her judgment again. Okay, this is fine. And that was a huge help. I think that for me, the family support in knowing that they were going to miss me and that they were sad that I was moving further away was offset by the fact that they were genuinely happy for me. They liked you, respected you, still do. And so they did not get in the way of that. They actually helped by packing up the U-Haul truck, helping me clean the townhome. My landlord was also a colleague that I had worked with professionally on a couple of different levels. And she was like, you didn't even have to clean. I'm like, first of all, I was totally going to leave you a clean, empty space. But also, you haven't met the women who all came to help me. They weren't going to leave it like messy either. Yeah. But part of that planning process was, okay, what am I going to do with the kids? And I got my first kid-free break in a couple of years with that move, because my mom, who was happy for me and was, agreed with the decision I was making, or at least supported the decision, I guess I should say. She was like, I'll take the kids for a couple weeks. You go get moved. So I also... One, if you are a person with children and you don't get a lot of off time from them, you kind of know that feeling of, I'm gonna be child free for like 5 minutes. What?
Yeah.
So I knew this by like April. I was like, okay, we're counting down, not just because I'm going to be with the love of my life, but because those children are going to be with their grandparents for a few weeks. I'm here for it. And that made a big difference too. So part of our plan, we were able to lean on family and friends to help make it an easier process. Not everybody's going to have that. That is, you know, if you think that this relationship is going to be in person at some point, or that's what you want it to be, if you can, getting together physically in those sorts of ways so your family maybe gets a look at this person and gets to know them and can connect with them, I think that does make it easier. Again, that's not an option for everybody, right. But if you have it, utilize it as part of your plan, because it's just going to smooth things out for you in all kinds of ways that you can't even imagine. Right. And for me, it helped. You know, my best friend, she and I worked in the same office, and she would tell me, I hate you because I already miss you and I don't want to miss you, but also I'm so happy for you. And so I could go talk to her about these things when we were supposed to be working, but we were really like fucking around. And I had somebody to bounce more ideas off of. What am I not seeing here with this, the house thing? What should I be doing for the kid thing? And so having that support and using the support you have around you while you're on your own and your partner is in their space on their own, that's a help too. And that got me through we were apart for 4 months. Yeah. I mean, we were on the phone every day for hours, more than we had been before. But that 6-week or 8-week mark came, and it was a physical ache.
It was tough. It was tough on both of us. And I think that's why we kind of upped the other contact between phone calls and different things. Because it did hit us, you know, not knowing that we weren't going to be able to see each other physically. But on the other hand, what helped was that knowing at the end of that road, at the end of that particular line. Yes.
Picking you up from the airport right before, like the day before we were packing everything up. I've never been so happy in my life. One, seeing you for the first time in 4 months.
Yeah.
And 2, knowing that this was the start of the next thing. This was the end of the planning. Right. We were starting the actual journey together and figuring out what this meant to be in a relationship in person and to meld our 2 lives together.
To take what we started online into a...
And it was a huge step that has worked out very well, quite frankly. We're happily married now. So yeah, I don't know if there's any takeaways from that other than the plan can be frustrating, but I think if you have the luxury of time and the ability to take the time to plan that out, you can smooth over a lot of things and take care of problems before they become problems, and spend that time communicating so that it's a better outcome.
I think communication is the biggest part of it.
So that's our experience. Yeah. If you have ever gone from long distance to in person, feel free to share if you planned, if you didn't plan, what that was like to get ready for that transition. And in an upcoming video, we will talk about the very beginning and what it was actually like when we hit that point. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, it is.
So if any of this sounds familiar to anybody, we did 2 or 3 podcast episodes a couple of years ago. Super long, drawn out conversations about sort of our origin story and what it was like for us being long distance. But this is just that snippet of time. And for people who maybe haven't heard it, we get a lot of questions from people who are like, how do I do this? And for us, the first step was to say that we want to do it and make a plan. So yeah, if you've had your own experiences with it, we'd love to hear from you on that. Share your perspective, share what you did, what you didn't do, what you might do differently if you had to do it over again. But this isn't the first time, because this better be the only time I got to do this. Thank you very much.
First and last.
If the only way I can be with you is a long distance relationship, I would do it, but I would be really cranky about it. Just So that's it for us this time. If you enjoyed the video, we love a thumbs up. If you really liked it, you know, you can always subscribe. We're here for that subscribe button.
And you can always hit that notification bell so you get notifications when we upload new content.
Sure. And if we like magically changed your life in some mind-blowing way, or maybe not, maybe that was a little much, you can join us on Patreon, patreon.com/KaylaLords. It's patreon.com/KaylaLords, or the link is in the description box below. Bye.